fell for the perfect woman at a conference only to discover she was taken. Our emotional affair flourished until she had to choose, we need to get out of this situation. Now, 3 weeks later, her memory haunts me as I wrestle with guilt and desire. What should I do? This is my first Reddit post ever. I rarely seek a lot of advice, even from friends, but right now I am grateful for any input. I hope I have posted in the correct subreddit. 2 months ago, I attended a 4-day job-related conference in a city different from my home. On the second day, I went out with some colleagues, and one of them invited a business partner, Alice, not her real name, and her colleagues to join us. Although I immediately recognized Alice as clearly my type, I was fully aware that she was in a relationship and therefore had no intention of flirting or anything of the sort. Despite this, we quickly discovered how much we had in common, and after we finished eating, the entire group decided to get drinks at a bar. Not long after we arrived, she and I started talking with each other discussing philosophy, science, literature, music, everything. We both clearly enjoyed our conversations and remarked several times on how we seldom had opportunities to discuss such abstract and interesting topics. We both experienced a sense of loneliness that comes from loving these kinds of discussions, and we continued to engage with each other for the remainder of the evening, both feeling as if the people and conversations around us did not exist. We also never ran out of subjects to discuss throughout the night. During the next 2 days, I made a challenging but ultimately successful effort to conceal my overwhelming attraction to her. As I learned later, she did the same. The night after our outing at the bar, we were invited to a rather luxurious dinner organized by the conference we were attending. After the first few hours, when everyone had eaten and guests began mingling, drinking, talking, and dancing, we quickly found each other again and remained at one table just talking. I kept noticing signs of flirting from her sitting close to me, touching my leg, occasionally brushing my arm that had also been present the previous night, yet I dismissed them very adamantly, convinced she could not be flirting with me because of her relationship status. I often fail to notice such cues when I intend to remain platonic. Still, a few colleagues had already begun commenting on how much time we were spending together and how it was clear we were flirting. While I understood their perspective, I assured them of my intention not to flirt with her or become involved in any hypothetical situation of unfaithfulness. Later, she and I joined others on the dance floor, and shortly after, she almost insisted on exchanging phone numbers, suggesting that she was waiting for me to take the initiative. I later moved to a different location with some colleagues, and she joined us but changed her mind about continuing the interaction once we arrived, so nothing further occurred that night. The following day, the conference ended in the early afternoon, and Alice and I managed to talk for a short time in the morning. I would have liked to see her off, but we did not have the chance to connect again before boarding our respective trains. She lives a few hours away from my home. Nevertheless, Alice and I texted for hours during my drive home. She confessed to me that my colleagues were correct. She was indeed flirting with me quite a lot. She also seemed to think I was flirting as well, although I had only mirrored the boundaries she established non-communicatively with no intention of flirting. When I asked her about it, she explained that flirting was allowed in her relationship and that she genuinely enjoyed meeting me. We continued texting throughout my journey, flirting extensively now that I understood it was acceptable and finding it hard to stop. The flirting intensified as time went on. When she exited the train and got into her car, she explained that it was normal for her to need time to adjust to being home again, but that it would be particularly hard this time because meeting me had been so intense. She disclosed that while it was not the first time she had flirted with someone outside of her relationship, it had never felt remotely as great as it did with me. She also mentioned that it was now crucial to cool down and cease flirting, to which I agreed. It was Friday night, and I did not contact her for the rest of the week. When I texted her the following week, she was pleased to hear from me. I later learned how difficult it had been for her not to text me over the weekend, as it was for me. From that point on, we exchanged texts throughout the day and into the night, never exhausting our conversation topics. Within the first few days, there were several moments when she crossed the boundaries she had set for herself, and I did too a couple of times, which we both immediately pointed out. Nevertheless, over the following days, she clearly continued to flirt with me, and I could not help but reciprocate. We stopped mentioning those boundaries, and instead gradually accepted that we could neither cease talking in general nor stop flirting. This could have been a valid reason to cut off contact, but we recognized that we could never envision not communicating with each other again. Thus, in order to establish a platonic relationship, we decided to take a break from conversations for at least 3 to 4 months, intending to diminish the butterflies and restart our discussions as platonic friends. I also learned, just for your context, that she appeared overwhelmed by her life, managing many different versions of herself, girlfriend, mother, daughter, coworker, friend, etc., and could only be her true self when she was with her best friends and when she was conversing with me. A few days later, on her birthday, she texted me. She mentioned how challenging it was for her and that she could not imagine not receiving a happy birthday message from me. So I wished her well, and we stopped communicating again. Exactly 10 days later, she texted me again stating, "I want to give up the no contact rule, please. Do you want to give up too?" I agreed and said yes. From that point onward, our boundaries only excluded seeing each other, but we continued flirting, exchanging compliments, and chatting casually as we sought to learn more about each other. I felt uncertain about this situation, but I was very sure of my inability to stop talking to her. We continued communicating for over a week until we arranged a video call the night she left home to attend another conference. She was there for one night, and we spent that evening online talking, flirting, and enjoying each other's company. It felt surreal to us how much it appeared as though we were soulmates, yet I always understood that it was wrong. A few days later, precisely 1 month after we first met, she expressed two thoughts. First, that we consistently seemed to feel the same about each other, regardless of how certain we were that this was not the case. And second, that she believed I loved her. I pointed out that this would imply she loved me too, but she appeared reluctant to admit it because of her relationship. The following week, her boyfriend left town for a few days, and we planned to spend significant time on video calls together. It felt bittersweet, yet I could not resist, despite my awareness of participating in an emotional affair. When the week prior she had heavily implied loving me, I made a half-hearted decision to exit the situation, but I was unsure how and when to do so. The night her boyfriend left, a good friend invited me out for drinks, and I took the opportunity to seek advice. I was advised not to have that video call, and Alice was surprised to hear I was not home yet. I promised her I would arrive soon, but people kept me there and I could not leave, knowing they were right. Instead, I called her from outside the bar and we spoke. She seemed hurt that we weren't having a calm discussion, and I felt the same. After comforting her for a while, she said, literally and in her own words, that she loved me, and I expressed the same sentiment. Despite promising to do so, I did not call her back that night after re-entering the bar, as I had to take care of a drunken friend. The following day, the atmosphere felt very off. I asked her about it, and we discussed our feelings. She was hurt by the previous night and gained clarity about how deeply involved we already were. She also realized, as I had the week before, that we needed to extricate ourselves from this situation. I had promised my friend the previous night that I would end things with Alice during our next video call, so I was relieved that Alice had come to the same conclusion. Nonetheless, I was still hurt and confused about it. We continued talking throughout the day and began our video call that evening after her daughter was asleep. Declaring our love for each other stopped feeling like an almost impossible thing to say, and we tried to enjoy our last hours together, ultimately agreeing to take one more day before cutting it off. Without exaggeration, I can say that during those final 2 days, we spoke for at least 10 hours each day, either through phone calls or video calls. When her daughter fell asleep again, we entered our last video call together. It seems impossible, but until the very last moment, we could not reach a point where we had nothing left to say. We were astonished that we had managed to avoid any awkward silences from not knowing what to say next. We talked until 5:00 a.m. and then hung up. It felt like losing both arms. However, we planned to see each other at the next conference, only with friends, and also arranged a sort of code that would allow us to indicate whenever we thought about each other in a romantic way. A few days later, she texted me to inform me that she had started seeing a therapist, which I had suggested, emphasizing ways to get appointments quickly, and that she was grateful but also requested that I not respond. Initially, I complied, but later realized that it was unfair to expect that from me. I needed a few days to gather my courage, but I ultimately replied, expressing my happiness for her and asserting that she could not ask me not to respond. I made it clear that she was free to request my absence, but I would always respond when she reached out. She replied, but to my surprise, she informed me that she had told her boyfriend everything the day before, deleted my number, and would now block it. He was quite hurt, but since he was willing to work on their relationship, they agreed to attend couples counseling. She blocked my number immediately after sending the message, and I could not inform her that it was all right. Yet she texted again a few minutes later, clarifying that I was not at fault for anything and that she was very, very sorry. She also revised her earlier statement. She had previously mentioned that while getting together with me and leaving her boyfriend was an option, the likelihood was very low, something like 90-10 in favor of her boyfriend. However, after breaking things off with me, she realized it was the most difficult decision she had ever made, and that the 90-10 probability now felt entirely inaccurate, though she did not provide a new ratio. I took the opportunity to tell her that I understood the steps she needed to take and that I never wanted or even considered her leaving her family for me. However, I also reminded her that she was free to return to my life whenever she wished and that my feelings would certainly not dissipate. But I emphasized that next time, the ratio must be 0, 100, as she should only reach out to me again if her relationship failed independently and not because of me. Now all I have left are memories of her, our texts that I frequently reread and the things she shares on Instagram. She deleted and blocked my number and muted my Instagram profile without blocking me so I can still view her content. The first few days were relatively manageable, but now, almost 3 weeks after our last interaction, I feel quite terrible. I cannot stop thinking about her and I am constantly looking at her stories. I am disgusted with myself for thinking this, but I really want to text her, urging her to leave him for me. Nevertheless, I will do my best to stay away from her. Some friends, even women, have encouraged me to pursue her further, but most, including my therapist, certainly advise me never to contact her. I am not quite sure what kind of advice I need. I omitted many details to keep the story a digestible length, but there is much more to share. If you have anything meaningful to add, I invite you to comment. Thank you for taking the time to read this. Story 2. My 19-year-old heart is torn as Amelia, my girlfriend of 1.5 years, keeps betraying my trust. First, she told me, "You're a nice guy, but he's my soulmate." Then she texted about our breakup possibilities. Now she's stripping and texting, "I just did a double dance." What do I do? To provide some context, the story begins in November 2023. I met my girlfriend during my senior year of high school. I was previously in an unfulfilling relationship, and I was tired of the same old routine, so I wanted to break up with her to explore. Consequently, I ended that relationship and engaged in sexual relations with my current girlfriend, let's call her Amelia. My initial intention was to have a lot of casual sex with various women, but that plan did not unfold as expected. I enjoyed spending time with Amelia and we shared many fun moments together. We gradually became very close. However, I hesitated to enter a committed relationship with her for two reasons. One, I had just exited one and did not wish to begin another so soon, and two, she had recently ended a highly toxic relationship just 2 months before we met. Thus, things proceeded as they typically would, resembling sneaky links for a while until she confessed her love for me, at which point I realized that our relationship was evolving into something serious. Not even a week after she expressed those feelings, she ended up having sexual relations with her ex-boyfriend. She attended a party where he was also present, and one thing led to another. I was heartbroken when she informed me, and she insisted that they did not fully engage and stopped midway because she was crying and claimed she was in love with me. I was foolish enough to forgive her, and we continued as if nothing had happened. Fast forward a month later to her birthday party at her house. Trust me, this will all be relevant. She invited me and asked me to bring some friends. Upon arrival, I noticed her ex-boyfriend at the party along with several of his friends. I was taken aback to say the least. However, I chose not to make a significant issue out of it since it was her special day and they shared many mutual friends. Perhaps he came with them, I'm not sure at this point. I could only stay for about an hour as the party started quite late, and my mother wanted me home by 12:30 a.m. Additionally, I needed to drive my friends home after the party. I wanted to be present when they sang happy birthday and brought out the cake, so I asked her when that would occur. She told me it would be at 12:15 a.m., so I disregarded my mother's wishes and stayed longer, hoping to be there for the celebration. To my disappointment, they did not sing happy birthday, and it was already 12:30 a.m., so I decided to leave. I had to rush home and drop my friends off on the way, but I didn't arrive home until 1:45 a.m. When I walked in the door, my mother was waiting for me. She scolded me for half an hour and informed me that I had lost my car privileges and would not be allowed to play basketball for a week. Although I was upset, my primary concern was that I couldn't be there for her. A week later, my girlfriend and I were in the car after my privileges had been reinstated, and she was dozing off because she had a long day. A message appeared on her phone, and I allowed my curiosity to get the best of me, an invasion of privacy, I know. I checked her phone and scrolled through their messages, discovering conversations about her ex and me. She wrote that I was a really nice guy, but her ex was her soulmate and that she loved him more than me. She also mentioned that she was simply waiting for him to return so they could be together. This was not even the worst part. The most painful revelation was when she texted, "I even waited to sing happy birthday so Trey me could leave so I could have more time with my ex." This deeply hurt me and I was uncertain about how to respond. I woke her up and asked her to clarify this text. She claimed she had only said it for comedic effect. It genuinely upset me. I requested that we exit the car and go into the school for a more private conversation. We entered the school and discussed it in the library for about 30 minutes before she left to go home. Most of the conversation comprised her pleading with me to forgive her. Ultimately, I did forgive her because I truly loved her. I despised myself for making that choice, but I knew I would have loathed myself even more had I ended the relationship. 2 weeks later, I asked her to be my girlfriend. But I did so not because I was ready for a committed relationship, but rather to make her feel more guilty about cheating on me while I was away on spring break in a week. Her usual excuse was, "Well, you're not my boyfriend." Moving ahead to the end of April, things had been going well since I asked her to be my girlfriend. We were happy, in love, creating memories, and everything seemed great, until she requested that I look through her messages on her phone, specifically to find a picture she had sent in a conversation with the same friend as before. While searching for it, I came across messages between them that mocked me. They referred to me as ugly and embarrassing, among other things. Amelia commented, "I can't even bring him around my other friends because they will just laugh at me." This once again upset me, and when I confronted her about it, she displayed an attitude of smugness. She said, "You can't be upset about this. We were just joking around. We weren't being serious." She told me I could leave her if I wanted, but insisted it would be a foolish reason to break up with her. I remained with her. This was at the end of April, by the way. I will skip through much of the subsequent story to avoid lengthy details, but here's a timeline. Start of June, she attends a party, talks to her ex-boyfriend, and takes a picture with him in the backseat of a car. She never informed me about this. I found the picture on my phone. Start of August, she goes away for a week with her friends, assuring me that her ex would not be there, only to discover that he indeed was present. I had paid for her entire trip and she ignored me for most of it. She also said she wouldn't attend any clubs or get excessively drunk, but she did both activities. By the way, I am fine with this. I just want her to be open about her plans so I know she is okay. Middle of August, a friend sends her a TikTok featuring a guy who resembles her ex-boyfriend, to which she replies, making me miss her ex. September, October, and November were generally fine. In December, she expressed the desire to take a trip with friends. I agreed but asked her to communicate openly with me about what she was doing and where she would be. She agreed and we settled on the basics. I inquired whether her ex would be attending, not to prevent her from going but simply to know. I am not the type to overreact, I prefer transparency. She assured me he would not be attending. I accepted this, but later, while conversing with one of her friends, who is also my friend, she mentioned, "You are such a great guy for letting her go on this trip with her ex there even after everything." It turned out that her ex was indeed going and she had lied about it. After discovering this, I took her on a date and attempted to ask her again who would be attending. I was providing her another chance to tell me in case she had mistakenly omitted it the first time. She once again insisted her ex was not going. By the way, she told that friend not to disclose to me that he would be on the trip. I confronted her with the knowledge that he would indeed be attending. I presented her with a straightforward choice, either choose the trip or me. I felt terrible that it had come to this, but she had lied to me without justification. I believe in relationships where individuals should maintain their independence from one another. She replied, "I love you so much and I choose you." I felt happy and satisfied with her answer. I even offered to reimburse her for the expenses she had incurred for the trip, but she declined. However, the next morning I woke up to find her location indicating she was en route to the trip with her friends. I was disheartened and she sent me 5 paragraphs explaining how sorry she was but that I was being too controlling. Long story short, I still stayed with her when she returned. Oh, and I also discovered she had taken another picture with her ex, this time posing in a bathroom mirror with him having his arm wrapped around her, indicating a level of comfort. I learned that her ex was attempting to hook up with another girl, and she became quite distressed about it, actively trying to thwart his advances. While he and the girl were in a room together, she reportedly banged on the door, demanding he come outside immediately. Additionally, she supposedly said, "While I'm here, you're not getting any tonight." I heard this from 2 separate sources. Although the account had inconsistencies, she swore on her mother's life that it did not occur. However, she did provide context for and took responsibility for her previous actions but denied this incident. Fast forward to today, things were going well for a while until she recently approached me, expressing a desire to become a stripper. She claims she desperately needs money for a car. I did not like the idea and told her that if she ever set foot in a strip club, I would end the relationship immediately. A few days ago, I called her and she answered, revealing that she was at the strip club dancing. I was furious, but unsurprisingly, I am still with her. Today, while she was working, she texted me, "I just did a double dance for a guy and had to expose myself." This revelation struck a nerve with me and prompted me to reach out for guidance. I attempted to find other stories similar to mine to better understand my feelings but couldn't, so I am here typing all of this. I may not have been the best boyfriend, but I have done my utmost to provide her with everything she could desire. Finding another woman would not pose a problem. I have received considerable attention from women lately. However, I really love my girlfriend and envision marrying her, wanting her to be the mother of my children. Setting aside all of this, my girlfriend is truly beautiful, determined, an excellent cook, intelligent, funny, and we share many common interests. I could not ask for a partner more suited to me, given the entirety of our past. I do not harbor hatred towards her or feel resentment towards myself for remaining with her. I am simply in a confusing state at the moment and uncertain of my next steps in this relationship. Any advice would be appreciated. Just having people to listen to me and provide insights on where to go from here would be immensely helpful. Additionally, feel free to ask me any questions if you require further details. I tried to keep it concise to prevent anyone from losing interest. Thank you for taking the time to read this, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.